Are you looking for something edgy? Are you wanting your edgiest of edgy fix? Then look no further, because Demon's Plan, the new series from Shonen Jump, essentially is an edgelord with a lot of shonen cliches, I might add. So in case you haven't heard of Demon's Plan, it's a new series from Shonen Jump. As of the recording of this video, 3 chapters have come out already, and it's pretty much essentially BORO! Carlos! BORO! Carlos! Yeah, you've probably seen stuff like that in the past with Naruto and Sasuke, Guts and Griffith, etc., because essentially the plot is this kid, he wants to book call the Demon's Plan to see if it'll grant his wish, because he's seen it happen in the past. He's seen somebody that couldn't walk, they did the Demon's Plan, eventually they could walk, some twists and turns happen, ultimately he finds out that he has the Demon Plan power to begin with, and he has like this arm, it's like a demonic arm, something like that. If you've ever heard of, I think it's called Jubei Sensei or Jubei-chan, something like that. It's something similar to that in that regard, like his look, his hand is like a just demonic, disfigured thing or whatever, and ultimately he's trying to rescue his friend Carlos, because his friend Carlos is also part of the Demon's Plan, and he's a demon, and essentially a setup where in order to finish all this demonic stuff, because there's multiple different demons, he has to basically slay all the demons at hand, and then eventually everything will go back to normal. He'll get a true wish. So with 3 chapters out, we have the main character BORO, we have Carlos, and then we have the guy that's kind of pushing all this together. He's the orchestrator of all this. His name is the Patron. That's what he called himself, the Patron. Which honestly, that character kind of reminds me of a character from D. Gray Man, the Millennium Earl. Kind of reminds me of that regard. And honestly, this series right now, I'll tell you, based off, like, I'm going to give you a brief idea of how I feel about it. I feel as though it's kind of cliche. We've seen quite a few of these elements already. Starts off very, very edgy, and like, it's like, oh, it's trying to be really edgy and badass and all that shit from the get-go. It's trying to do that, and it's not really breaking any new ground. In these 3 chapters, again, the main character, he's trying to, save his friend. We've seen that, in shonen anime and manga in general multiple different times, so nothing new there. Demonic powers, honestly, I say the art looks pretty cool, and the thing about it is that even though I just listed, like, all these kind of bad things in a sense, like shonen cliches and, kind of seen it, done it already, blah, 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 ultimately, I still enjoy it. I'm gonna tell you right now, based off these 3 chapters, I actually really, really enjoy it. And that's that I could look at it and say, holy shit, I've seen shit like this before, blah, 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 but there's something about it that is keeping me interested, and maybe it's just the fact of my own personal taste that I like stuff like this, but I'm liking where it's going. I think it has some potential. Ultimately, the author just got to shake things up. And I'm gonna be honest, because there's a series like Black Clover and Shonen Jump that started off really, really cliche, doing almost everything you've seen in anime and manga, and it succeeded. So I think that there's a possibility that if Demon's Plan finds its place, it could ultimately grow and be something big. But while I'm reading this, and I said this in one of my Shonen Jump rants, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but as I'm reading this manga, I keep on thinking to myself, and it's kind of cutting my enjoyment a bit with, oh yeah, this is cool, I'm enjoying it, but this is probably going to be canceled. And that's a shitty mindset to go into, but with, as long as I've been reading Shonen Jump manga and know how things roll, there's a huge possibility it could go that route. I mean, there's 3 chapters out right now. Again, the characters are cool, the art is cool, shonen cliches up the ass and stuff like that, but I am enjoying it, and that's the cool thing about it. And I think that a lot of people need to get to that point that you can look at it from a critical standpoint, and I can honestly tell you right now, based off the first 3 chapters, Demon Plan, it's not all that. Right now, it's not, the biggest and most shocking thing in the world. It's kind of just like, oh, okay, some shit I've seen before, but there's something like enjoyable about it, and I'm hoping that it goes far. But honestly, with my first impressions of Demon's Plan, I could totally see that there's gonna kind of be a hate train behind it, similar to Black Clover, because again, like, people are gonna immediately say, I mean, from chapter 1, people were already saying, holy shit, it's a Naruto ripoff, he's trying to save his friend from the darkness, because Carlos and him were really cool and chill, and then all of a sudden, by the end of chapter 1, Carlos is a demon, and he's like, fuck you, we're gonna fight at some given point. And it's like, yeah, seen that before. Not to say that Naruto and Sasuke was the inventor of all that, because we have shit like Guts and Griffith, and there's so many different scenarios where this happened, but ultimately that's where it stands with what they're trying to accomplish with this series. And I think based off the first 3 chapters of what I read thus far, I feel as though if the author doesn't quickly find some new ground and something really insightful to get people to continue to be invested in it, this will be a sinking ship really quick. Because once you get to chapter 3, it's like, okay, he's fighting thugs in an alley, and again, I gotta mention that the art looks really sick, especially when BORO goes into like his demonic form and shit like that. The art gets really badass, so I'll give him credit with the art, but it's really not like doing anything new, and that's what's making me think that it might not last. I mean, again, you have something like Black Clover that can do that, but Black Clover, I think, is the type of series that came in at the right time, at the right moment, and it struck, and that's why it's huge. Demon's Plan doesn't really have that. It's coming in at a point where so many series are being axed again, like not that many people are standing around, so Demon's Plan is kind of one of those series that it could go, it could stay, it just really depends on what the author does next, because again, first 3 chapters, it isn't breaking any new ground. I'm gonna be honest with you, I enjoy it, I really like it, I think the character art looks cool, I think the characters are kind of neat in a way, but it's nothing new. And honestly, it seems as though the manga doesn't really have much of a direction other than the, you know, overall theme of him trying to save his friend, because it's kind of like he goes traveling and, you know, he's trying to find his friend. He has no idea where to start, and it seems as though it's doing what the typical shonen does, where it's like, okay, in chapter 3, it looks like we finally met the main heroine, which, you know, they slowly start introducing the cast, and it'll slowly go that route. But again, it's just like nothing new, and I don't want to keep on saying that or whatever, because I'm kind of repeating myself at this point. But that's what I feel about Demon's Plan. And again, I feel as though if you've seen it before, you might not like it. If you haven't, like, you know, maybe you haven't checked out Naruto or something like that, all 2 of you out there, you don't know anything about that, then maybe it'll be fresh to you. But somebody that's seen it a lot and read a lot, it just feels like that. But I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think. How do you feel about Demon's Plan if you checked it out? Again, brief synopsis: main characters, they're friends, they have a goal, ultimately shit goes crazy, plot twist, this, that, and the third, and now they're rivals and they're gonna fight to the death in order for one of them to be free of each other. And it was kind of neat the way I think chapter 1 started. That's one thing I'll say that it felt a little bit different in a way. Maybe it was doing its own thing, is that they were together, they had this goal in a sense to like basically get the Demon's Plan. And again, I don't want to give too much away, because I do think that at the very least the twist in chapter 1 was kind of neat. It was predictable, but it was still neat, and that's when things go wrong. But up until that point, I really like the camaraderie and the loyalty that they have to each other, although I do notice, and I've seen a lot of people saying as well, that it has some of those yaoi undertones in a way. It almost feels like that. It feels like something you get maybe from Seraph of the End, where it's like, you two boys, you're a little too close, just stand back, stop the devotion, just stand back. Also, I've seen a couple of comparisons, people saying that the main character kind of looks like Ashura from Naruto with the 2 little braids on the side of his head. I think that's a nitpick, but I still find that funny as shit too. And I guess probably one of the most interesting things I want to know more about with Demon's Plan in a way is the patron, the guy with the hat, you know, that is reminding me of like the Millennium Earl from the Gray Man. Kind of curious, what's his whole take in all this? What is he trying to accomplish? Why did he take Carlos with him? Why is he doing the whole Demon's Plan to begin with? Because he's probably the most interesting character that we've seen thus far. I mean, we haven't really had that many characters, to be honest with you. In 3 chapters, we've only really got, I want to say, 4 important characters. We got the main character BORO, Carlos, Patron, and then the new main heroine, which I'm assuming that's going to be the main heroine. So in 3 chapters, not that many, you know, characters, especially on the good guy's side. We maybe have 2, depending on if that female is going to rock with him or not. So yeah, as far as the main characters go, the only really one that got my interest is the Patron, because BORO, typical main shonen protagonist, honestly, very typical. It's like, he's an edgelord. He's so fucking edgy. This manga is just really edgy. That's the best word to describe it. Very fucking edgy. In these 3 chapters, Carlos is essentially Sasuke. Is like, no, you see what people have done to us. We need to strike down these people. We need to do the bad things. We gotta be bad guys and twirl our mustaches and shit like that. And then the new main female, she seems a little bit tsundere. So for people that like tsundere females, you might like that. But the Patron is like, I want to know what's his end game. I want to know if there's somebody above him that's making him do these things. Why is he rocking with Carlos? Why did he want to go through all this to begin with? So there's a lot of mystery with that character. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm kind of curious what you guys think. For people that have already read it, the first 3 chapters, are you liking it? Are you disliking it? Does it have too much of those shonen cliches, like, you know, the whole saving my friend from the darkness shit that we've seen time and time again? And do you think that it could potentially last in the never-ending acts that is Shonen Jump? Do you think that it's gonna make it, or do you think it's too cliche and just doesn't have its own feet to stand on, that Shonen Jump isn't gonna give it an opportunity to keep going? And I hope it gets a good opportunity. I hope that at the very least they give it 20 chapters before they decide either way, because it does show some potential. It does show that if the author finds his own way, in a way, aside from the fact that I'm sure the overall theme is always going to be BORO trying to save Carlos, if he finds his own way, it could be something big. It's just a matter of the author coming up with not necessarily originality, but doing things on his own twist, I guess. And just your overall thoughts of this. If you haven't read it, are you going to check it out? Honestly, I'd say the art is a beauty for some of the panels, especially when BORO goes demon form. Like I said, it looks really fucking sick. But that's that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. Yo, this shit is fucking edgy, bro. It's edgy.